I've often been asked about the history of our art. Certainly, I was trained by Richard A. Bowe, B-O-W-E, and he trained under Shota Morita. And during the Korean, or when he was in the military, he was stationed overseas. I'm not sure if he was in Korea itself, but he certainly was in Japan. And he was stationed in the northern island of Aikido, just near a town called Chitose, Chitose. I believe that's how you pronounce it. In any case, he found this little school. He found in his off time in the military, on the military base, he wanted to train. He had had some previous training in New York City. And I think it was a place called Seward's Academy, S-E-W-A-R-D, and trained in jiu-jitsu. Once again, we never had these kind of long conversations, and I don't remember exactly if he had had a black belt in it or not, but he trained in that. And then when he went overseas in the military, he found the school, found in Shota Morita a person who seemed to have a clarity of thought and motivated him to want to learn an art that he later on brought back to America and had a deep sense of commitment to. When he was over there, he used to tell us that even when he was a tall man, I don't know, 6'2", 6'3", and in his pictures of early training, I mean, he was very thin and skinny, and he looked gangly almost, but he enjoyed his training, and he used to say there was a sense there of that samurai spirit. The northern island of Aikido is not Tokyo or the main island, and that area still had kind of a rough and tumble attitude about martial arts, and especially with Westerners even then, you were really thought to be an outsider, and the term gaijin, I'm sure, was used routinely. But he was accepted. He worked hard, and that speaks a lot for him because he had to win over people, and he trained diligently and often, and he used to say that even on his ride back to the base on a bus or whatever it was, they would practice riding the bus and doing wrist locks and other things on the ride back and forth even. So it was a different time. He got his, right before he left Japan, he got his first degree black belt and was training and was working toward his second dan. Again, all the details are not clear. I don't want to misquote anything or leave anything out, but my general understanding was that when he came back here and vowed to open up a school, that he would automatically, when he documented that, he would automatically have gotten his knee done. So when I first trained with him, he was a knee dan. He always said that Shota Morita himself was a unique individual. He had trained with Yoshida Kotaro in Daituro Aikijujutsu, I believe, and trained in different arts. And this is where things get fuzzy many times. First of all, when I trained with him, I don't care if he trained with Mickey Mouse, and I don't mean that as a joke. I mean, and I didn't know about heritage or anything. I knew that there was this person in front of me who claimed to be X, and more than proved it through their teaching and demonstration and so forth. There's this modern need to follow lineage as if that alone is going to validate the person that you're training with. I mean, it may or may not. But if the person you're training with has information that is valid and that suits you, I don't know, that should be enough, really. But and that explains why, in those days, we just didn't ask people, all this background and all the details. So sometimes, over the years, that stuff gets lost. Or someone hears a rumor about something, and now we're discussing things that are hearsay. So I have no firsthand knowledge of any of that. This is what I've heard. There's pictures of the dojo. I have some of those, and of Shota Morita and so forth and so on. Soon after Mr. Bo left, and by the way, one of the stories I heard is that, first of all, he is the only one that I know that came back here and eventually had a black belt, Westerner, American, came back here with that. There have been times in the past when I think there was somebody in California claiming to have that and training and but could never prove it. So that's what he says anyway. The other thing, when he trained over there, Shota Morita had all these different arts and skills that he had, not only in Daituroki Jiu-Jitsu, but he had experience in karate and jiu-jitsu and judo and weapons techniques, etc. And so I don't know all that lineage in detail. I don't know who those people were, and they knew themselves. As a matter of fact, in Japan, a lot of times, and you have to go back. Remember, this was in the obviously the early '60s, late '50s when he was training. This was fresh after the war, really, by comparison, and there was a lot of there are very secretive and quiet people. They're not and respect and being subdued in your manner was appreciated, and so you just did that. So he had a little bit of those traits with him. It's an interesting sidelight. He was in his military. He had language skills and responsibilities, and as far as I knew, he spoke fluent Japanese. And I found that out when later on, when I was a student of his in higher rank, we had lunch together one time at a Japanese restaurant, and he spoke to her in Japanese. He always chuckled, and I always found that funny myself. Is that here he is, he's able to speak Japanese, but he always spoke English in the dojo. It makes perfect sense to me, because when I taught at the police academy, if as a teacher the object is communication, why wouldn't you speak in the language that the people that you're teaching speak? He used to chuckle at people who spoke Japanese in the dojo, who were Westerners or Americans, to other Westerners, when that wasn't the language that you're communicating in, at least in that culture. If you're in Japan speaking it, that makes more sense. So we used to speculate on the reasons for that. Maybe it was people would do that because they wanted to impress the students, or keep a certain mystique and confusion. But it made no sense. In any case, from my understanding, he spoke Japanese. As we trained, he was much more formal. Always called you by your last name. He always there was a more direct at the time and strict separation between student and teacher. Nowadays we have a tendency, even when we try to maintain a certain distance, because familiarity can breed contempt, the old saying goes, but it's much more familiar now, and it wasn't then. So that gives you a little bit understanding of what we did. In the dojo too, The interesting thing about, I don't know, this is an interesting aspect about, again, about this little interview here is about philosophy and about thoughts. So I'm trying to be, I guess, this is off the cuff. I don't have any notes. I'm just giving you my views. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just sharing. This concept of being able to share information, work hard, practice, and so forth, wasn't something we really talked about then. We didn't ask for philosophy discussions and things like that. When you trained, I guess one of the things I like about the Matz, I wrote an article recently that the Matz don't lie. You know, as a teacher, I would often say things when I've taught at schools for troubled kids and whatnot. I would. How do I get their attention? I mean, paper clips are flying, wads of paper, cat calls, stomping on the bleachers and so forth. How do you get someone's attention? So they introduced me and they expected me to do some kind of a dog and pony show. Well, I would show them simple techniques and things like that, but how do I get their attention? Well, I used to say things like, you know, we parents and teachers lie to you, and I'd yell that out. And you could hear a pin drop, the teachers waiting what was going to be out of my mouth next. But trust me, the paper clips and the balls and the stomping stopped. And I said, you know, we tell you, and there's a punchline to this, so please bear with me. We tell you that it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter, you know, if you wear glasses or if you're overweight or whatever. We tell them all these things. Well, that's a lie. These things do matter. But I would tell them, so what? Are you going to continue being angry, resentful, self-destructive because you found out that you know, people weren't your friend, or you know, the girl didn't want to date you, or the guy didn't like the way your hair was, or whatever, or they didn't like because you were too smart or not smart enough. These things are things that sometimes I think we're not honest enough with people. So, what is it about the Matz? To me, there was always, and I understood this. My daughter now used to, even now, used to ask me about, you know, Dad, her term was, that's not fair. How many of you parents have heard, you know, the kids say that's not fair, and you chuckle? Well, hello, welcome to everybody's world. Who said that the world owes you anything? It is fair. This modern day concept of trying to insulate people against this unfairness is ridiculous, I think. It makes us not strong. It makes us not resilient. You wonder why we have some crises with youngsters and so forth, especially. I'm sorry, you know. But the Matz. When you walk on the Matz, it doesn't matter whether you're a ditch digger or a doctor. You could be an attorney, you could be a female, a male. The Matz have no emotion. They could care less. Your performance on the Matz, how you train, how you fall, that's all that matters. The Matz don't give a damn. You can make excuses. Oh, this hurts. I don't want to do this. I've got this. It doesn't. When I walk on the Matz, the world is fair. Only skill matters. There's no trophies for second. Well, I'm not talking about sparring matches, but I'm talking about there's no. You're either going to be successful in your technique, in your match, or whatever, or you're not. And it doesn't. And also, it teaches you sportsmanship and character building, and accepting failure to build up your ability to overcome those things. That's what I think. And without getting too deep into this philosophy thing, I think we need more of that. I think, and I think one of the great things about about attending a school if you're an adult, making you maybe a better husband, a better father, because of that concept I mentioned earlier about being able to clear your head and go back out and follow the same rut in work and life, and be resilient and be there for your family. You come into the training, and there's no giving up. There's no saying I can't. There's no excuses. There's no avoidance. You've got to face up to these things. And I think I always had a visceral like of that. And if I can convey that to students, then maybe I have some purpose.